Hi, everyone. Welcome. We've just started the webinar. We're just going to wait a couple seconds for people to join. As we're waiting, I always love to invite you to please open up chat and let us know where you're calling in from. I always like to see how many we have in the US and Europe and other places all over the world joining us today. All right. And as we get started right now, Roger and I are really excited to talk to you today about the art of optimizing your precious time. Because the truth is, everyone, even Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, all of them have the same amount of time as we do. And what great people are good at is figuring out how to focus and make the most out of their 24 hours a day. And welcome, I'm seeing Debbie from Denver, San Francisco, Dallas. Welcome, everyone. As you join, just chime in on where you're calling in from. Yemen, awesome.
Awesome.
All right, let's get to the next slide. So essentially right now, I'm going to be just introducing a bit about us and the company, and then we're going to get into the meat of the webinar with Roger Snyder. So my name is Rina, Alexin. I'm the CEO of Productside. I'm calling in from normally sunny, but today quite dreary Miami, Florida. I've been running Productside now for just over 6 years, and we really focus on transforming teams and organizations with our consulting and our training services. Roger, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Rina. Yeah, I'm Roger Snyder. I am a principal consultant and trainer here at Productside. I have been with the company 8 years. Have done a variety of different roles. And before that, I ran product management teams in Silicon Valley for over 20 years with experience across a wide variety of different technologies, hardware, software, physical goods, military grade products, mobile products, lots of different fun things. And I've, in my 8 years, worked with insurance companies, worked with services providers, software providers. I am also based in what would normally be a sunny location, the Santa Cruz Mountains in California, but today it's cloudy. We're supposed to get rain tonight, just a little bit of rain because of that bomb cyclone that's going off up north. It's got 100 miles, hundreds of miles of reach, bringing us a little bit of rain as well.
Well, Roger, one other element that I know about you is that you're also a wonderful manager. So this is why we are here to present some tips. Whether you're a manager or an individual contributor, I think we have something to share for just about everybody here. So first, who are we? If you don't recognize us at Productside, maybe you heard us by our former name, 280 Group, but we've been around for over 25 years, and we have really transformed the company to be an outcome-driven product partner. What that means is we provide not just training, we're here to change culture, change behaviors, and we do that by creating a tailored program for our clients. And all of our training programs and engagements are led by wonderful invested experts, just like Roger Snyder. If you've been to our webinar, you know by now, this is really time meant for you. Don't let this be an unproductive meeting. Do not engage with us. You can use the chat button, or you can, if you want to talk anonymously, you can also use Q&A. I'm going to answer the most common question we get, which is, can I watch the recording? And the answer is yes. We will be posting the recording. I believe it will be up on YouTube. It'll be on our website. And I think all registrants will get a link to watch the recording after this webcast has ended. But please chime in. I'll even bring questions if they're relevant to what we're talking about live, and we'll leave time at the end for Q&A. If you haven't yet, please consider joining our LinkedIn group. This LinkedIn group, there are posts every single day from product managers and product leaders discussing various topics, from core product management skills to releasing new products. It's a very engaging group. You can share leadership best practices and network with your peers. There's a link, and there's also a QR code here if you want to take a minute, but there's a link here to join our LinkedIn group.
Yeah, become part of the conversation, definitely.
All right, Roger, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rina. So many of our webinars focus on a particular product management technique or a topic of the day. Today, we're going to take a little different take on things. We're going to talk about quick snacks of various different techniques to help you become more effective at managing your precious time. So we're going to start off by talking about how you can be more expert in your work, a couple of techniques there. We'll talk about what sometimes surprises product managers is how much they need to be team leaders. And so we'll talk about some techniques there to optimize that team relationship, build up a stronger relationship with stakeholders. We're also going to talk about what I like to call no surprises. There are a lot of moving parts in product management, a lot of things going on inside your four walls and outside your four walls. And we need to, I mean, what the heck? Do we even have walls anymore? I mean, it's all virtual life these days, right? Inside the boundaries of this digital box you see me through, I guess, is a better analogy now. But we're going to talk about how do you manage those surprises more effectively, reduce surprises so that you are better coordinated with everyone that's involved in making a great product and service. And then we'll go through an example at the end, talk about the real life experience of product managers when they have to manage multiple releases, and talk about how all the techniques I talked about earlier should be integrated to make your life better. And I'm also going to issue a little challenge at the end of this to all of you. And you've got my email address. I would love to hear back from you all as a result of my challenge. So let's dive in. All right, but first, I love to understand our audience a little bit better. So if we could launch the poll, please. Here we go. I'd love to know how many years of experience you have as a product manager. I'm going to openly admit right now that even though I've been doing this for multiple decades, I still slide back sometimes on these techniques. And I need to refresh my approach. So even if you have been at this a long time, I'm hoping some of the techniques that we present to you today will be good reminders or good refreshers for you to continue to sharpen your saw, get great at your techniques, refresh your capabilities, and hopefully you're going to be able to answer my challenge in the end as well. Let's see what we've got going on here. So
Well,
far,
Roger,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. It looks like majority of folks are with 5 years or less experience, which is great because this is a definitely useful there. And then we have just a few that seem to be more on the experience side, over 10 years.
Excellent. Very good. Quickly share the results with you all. You can see the breakdown of the folks. Like Rina said, wow, over 70%, less than 5 years of experience. Awesome. Good. So that helps me understand the audience a little bit. Let's talk about becoming expert in your work. And I want to start by making sure that you are thinking about how you do your product management through a life cycle process. Now, we at Productside have the Productside blueprint, right? And it follows industry standards in terms of the ideas of thinking about a concept, the first idea of either a new product or of an incremental improvement to a product. Either one is what we are using as this little star right here, right? You've got an idea, or somebody's brought an idea to you, or you identified a new customer problem that you want to solve. That begins this journey through the product life cycle of first getting into discovery mode, identifying, hey, what's the problem? Do I really understand it? Do I understand the who and the why? Deeply invest time here in order to deeply understand this problem that you want to solve. That's the investigate phase. Then you want to be able to define the solution and make sure you have a solid understanding of product market fit. Is this product going to be valuable to your customers? Is it going to be feasible for you and your company to build this product? Do you have the assets, the intellectual property, the resources, the channels, the right sales force even, to make sure that you can actually build a product and make sure it's going to be successful in the marketplace? And then the viability. Does it have a return on investment? Does it help your company meet its own business goals while solving real problems for your customers? So that's the investigate and define phase that are part of discovery. Spending time in the problem space, spending time in the solution space. Then, of course, building the product, creating something new, either an increment or a whole new product, and then getting it out in the marketplace. And once you deliver, by the way, you can't just, shake off your hands and say, I'm done, have fun, right? This new increment gets out into the marketplace, but now you need to watch it. You need to pay attention to it. You need to help foster its life and growth and pay attention to how your customers are using it to see where you could improve it further. Also, figure out at the end of its life, when is it time to take it off the shelf and move on to the next product or migrate to the next release, whatever your particular product circumstance might be. So follow a life cycle. And as you do, we've got a playbook available for download, and this playbook will show you what are the things you should be thinking about all along this journey. And this is where I'm talking about being more expert in your craft. All right. So when you're in the investigate phase, for example, you should be thinking about the who, the personas, who are the people that actually use your product, who are the people who are going to influence the purchase of your product. So if you use a chart like this one, put a little dog ear on this and or take a screenshot. Use this as a model for all the things you should be thinking about at the right times as you're moving through the product lifecycle. This will help you make sure that you're asking the right questions, engaging the right team members. And we'll talk more about that in a little while. Anything you want to add, Rina, to these two thoughts?
I think this is really important, especially since we do have a lot of product managers who have recently started out. Sometimes the most common issue is that there's a default mode to product management. If you don't know what to do, you sometimes just do what other people ask you to do. And
Right.
that's not really going to help you in the long run. In the short run, you might feel productive, but true productive work gets done once you have a system like the one that we are suggesting here. And that's why it's really important, especially also as we talk later when you have balancing priorities.
Absolutely. You're never going to have enough time in the day to do all the things that, as Rena was talking about, people are going to ask of you. So let's make sure that you are able to do the things that you need to do to ensure your product success. So follow a product lifecycle process and use a chart like this to make sure you're thinking about the right issues, involving the right stakeholders at the right time so that you can make great decisions and build an awesome product. Now, let's talk a little bit more about time management skills. All right. This is something about your own personal approach to your work life that I want you to think consciously about. I like what Rena said a moment ago. You're going to constantly be besieged by people asking you to do stuff. It's important for you to take control of your own calendar, take control of your own time. So, first off, plan your week and plan your day. Now, use a tool here. It could be as simple as a digital notepad or a physical notebook or a planner. I know there's lots of people who still like to use those physical planners. Maybe it's something digital like Asana or Monday or Trello, right? But organize the things you're working on and break down those larger tasks. Like suppose you're building a business case, right? There's a lot of work that goes into building your business case for the next release of your product. Break it down into smaller tasks. Plan that out. Have a weekly plan for what matters to you and what looks like success. And then every day, 10 minutes in the morning, I have a calendar invite at 8 a.m. every morning. 10 minutes to just look at my goals for the week. How am I doing? And what do I need to do next? So you're planning your day. And then use this approach called Eat the Frog. Brian Tracy came up with this concept of every day, block out some time to work on the most important thing, right? So what's your frog? Identify it, eat it, do it first. If you can block out that time, do it first, and then reap the benefits of making progress. And don't get me wrong, eating the frog doesn't mean the whole frog has to get eaten in that one day. You're going to do this in bite-sized chunks, right? The old expression that I'm familiar with is how to eat an elephant, and that's one bite at a time, right?
I will add here that I think I have two more points here, Roger.
Yeah.
First is, I think it's really important for people to also understand their own rhythms. Everybody runs on a slightly different rhythm. And there's a great book by Daniel Pink where he outlines, for example, for someone like me, I'm a traditional, more on the early bird side. Analytical work is really great for me in the morning. I make fewer mistakes. I'm really good. Spreadsheets, throw them at me, right? 9 a.m., let's go. But afternoon time, that tends to be a little bit better for me to have more creative time. And then the other element here is context switching. Product managers have so many things thrown at them. Be cognizant that there is a cost to doing a lot of things in a single day. And context switching, you can plan out your week such that you're really focusing on a piece of work and you're giving yourself enough time, not 30-minute increments, but maybe sometimes you need 3 hours to do something, to do heads down, and make sure you understand your rhythms, and then also just try to reduce that work in progress for the reduction in context switching.
Right. And transitions are important. So also especially if you're working from home or you're doing, you have a digital lifestyle, make those transitions count. 5 or 10 minute transitions where you do get up, walk around, take a break, get some fresh air if you can, play one of your favorite little 5 minute games like Wordle, whatever it might be, to just refresh your mind and be able to make a conscious choice to do your transitions more effectively. I find that's very helpful as well because I work from home and I get out and throw the ball for the dog for a minute, whatever it might be, just to refresh your brain and your spirit. And then you're going to be much better that next block of work you're going to be working on. All right. So in terms of focus, making sure that is something that you are, like I said earlier, grab those large things you're working on. Maybe you're doing some discovery and experimentation work. Maybe you're doing building up a business case. So you want to create blocks of time to focus and make sure you're making incremental progress on the things that you're working on. And that leads me to my next point, which is defensive calendaring. Do put blocks of time on your calendar that are for you to work. Your calendar is not just to be filled up with everybody else's meetings, but for you to put blocks on your calendar and say, this is when I'm going to do the next step of work on building out that business case. Maybe today I need to do market research and come up with what is the size of the opportunity based on the market size. That's going to be a critical piece, and I need to make some time for that effort. Put those blocks of time on your calendar throughout the week so that you are then able to make progress for each step that you need to make of these mini milestones that lead up to the big results of the project that you're working on. So guard that time, put it on your calendar, and then look at all the meetings that everybody else puts on your calendar and prioritize. Which are the meetings you really need to be at? Which are the meetings that maybe you could pass on? This was something I didn't learn until like 10 years into my career. Every time somebody put a meeting on my calendar, I wanted to be diligent and show up, right? It was only later that I realized, you know what? I don't actually have to be at every one of these meetings. If I can get the minutes or the notes or talk to the meeting organizer for 5 minutes afterwards, for some of those meetings, that's enough. So get back some of your time by picking and choosing which meetings you should participate in. So those are some of the techniques that I want you to use in your own personal management. Manage yourself more effectively. All right. Now, there is a powerful tool out there, AI, generative AI, all of the various different chat bots are out there. And we have got a fantastic series, and we'll put a link to that in the chat in a moment, but a fantastic series of webinars that will help you be able to take AI and use it more effectively to do all the things you need to do as a product manager. So I've got up here some diagrams, right? Maybe you're working on jobs to be done analysis in the discovery phase. Maybe you are building out your opportunities tree. Maybe you need to do some storyboarding. Maybe you need to build up that lean canvas that will be what you use to present your business case. You can use artificial intelligence to help you with each one of these tasks, accelerate the work, get it done more quickly, and actually bring new perspectives and new quality to it. Like I said, we've got a whole series of webinars on how to do this, and I want you to get more in-depth thought about that, so go watch those webinars. But a couple of quick tips, right? Remember that the old adage of software and applications, garbage in, garbage out, all right? So if you don't do a good job conversing with your chatbot, you are not going to get great results. So you want to set context. Tell it who you are. I always start my conversations with, I am a product manager working on a business case, and I need to think more deeply about these issues. Give it that context, right? And then make it an ongoing conversation where you incrementally improve and refine the results of that work. All right. So that's important for you to do. Be able to look at the chat GPT as an assistant, not as the answer. All right. So like we say here, it's a conversation starter, not a source of truth. It should be something that gets you thinking, spurs on innovation in your mind. Inspiration is a great source here, right? But then you've got to make sure that you're responsibly using AI to get your work done. All right. So you can share when you do use AI, be transparent about that. Make sure you understand your company policies about how you are allowed to use AI, and make sure you're not sharing proprietary information from your company or personal information of your customers using an AI if you're using a public one. Right now, a lot of companies are starting to set up private instances. Great. That private instance, you can go and share more of that information, but know what the rules are and follow them. And if you do that, you can actually make AI an indispensable assistant to you as a product manager. But practice, practice, practice. I want to emphasize that last point.
So I've pasted the chat GPT. So we've done actually a series of webinars on how to use chat GPT effectively as a product manager. A lot of them are hosted by Dean Peters, and I'm also now posting Dean Peters' GitHub with product useful prompts for product managers. You can go in there. There's actually a prompt in one of these which helps so ChatGPT, oftentimes what I hear Dean say is that it thinks like an engineer, so you have to really coach it to think like a product manager.
That's right, so, absolutely.
There's a lot of really
set that context. So again, to recap here, be expert in what you do, all right? Follow a product lifecycle. Make use of, say, our resources and playbooks that help you think about the right issues at the right times. Then use all those time-saving tips that I talked about. And yes, enlist AI as your product management assistant because it can really help you come up with new thoughts and be more rapid in how you are able to come up with the right answers and move forward as a product manager. All right, let's now talk about team leadership. And I want to check in with you all again and understand how do you interact with, coordinate with the various stakeholders that you work with. So let's launch this second poll. I would love to understand how do you organize your relationship with all of your stakeholders, with your product release team, the folks that you need to gather together to build your product. So answer this question. Are you talking to your team members kind of just ad hoc, right? Are you relying on agile ceremonies like sprint planning and stand-ups as the only way that you're coordinating with your team? Are you just having ad hoc meetings as needed? Just, oh, suddenly I need to get these folks together, right? Or are you having team meetings on a regular cadence? Or having core and extended team meetings on a regular cadence? So give us some sense of where you are today. And it can be a mix here, right? I understand that. Let's give them another moment here to answer the question. How are we doing here?
Yeah, I think I'm going to end the poll and share results.
Please.
But I am heartened by the results here that at least we have fewer people that rely on ad hoc or regular scheduled agile ceremonies. So people do seem to have good regular cadence, which is really, really great.
That's fantastic. Absolutely. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about stakeholders. All right. I want to emphasize this point. I'm probably going to say it multiple times the rest of this webinar. Product management is a team sport. All right. You cannot build a great product without a whole bunch of other people contributing, these other stakeholders. And when I say stakeholder, I'm talking about someone who you need to rely upon in order to help make this product great, or that has a vested interest. They have a stake, that's where the term comes from, in the outcome of this product being successful, right? So sales folks are stakeholders. If you don't make a great product that's easy for them to sell, they're not going to be effective in getting that product out and getting it into people's hands where it can be used effectively and it can generate revenue for your company. So don't forget, look at this chart. There are so many folks that are stakeholders in what you need to do. So remember, you need to bring them all together and keep them on the same page and take them on that journey of the product life cycle that we just talked about a few moments ago, right? So some tips. This is one of the slides I actually present when I'm teaching our class, Optimal Product Management. I talk about some best practices here, and these should help you preserve some of your precious time as well. All right, so you probably didn't know when you signed up to be a product manager how much of your time is going to be spent on team coordination. So follow some of these best practices. First off, scale your communications. All right. You want to create something like a monthly email update where you keep everybody informed of what's going on. And I'm talking about a bullet list that should take you 15 minutes. All right. Something quick. What did you learn this month? What were your discoveries? What were the key decisions that were made? So that if folks are practicing what I talked about earlier and not attending every one of your meetings, you're keeping them up to date on what's going on. And how are we doing on overall progress towards our next product release and the larger picture of the outcomes we're trying to accomplish in our product roadmap. Do that as like I said, quick 15-minute hit, send it out monthly, and send it broadly, all of the stakeholders that care about this product, right? Then make sure there's some central place where folks can keep up to date. And you put a link to that, by the way, in the email every time. This central product knowledge base, whether you're using Confluence or SharePoint or some of the newer tools that other companies like Microsoft is providing, what's it called? That Loop, right? Use the various different collaboration tools to create a central repository of information about where your product is, what's up next, where they can look at your business canvas, where they can look at it, frequently asked questions, right? And this is another technique for you when people keep coming at you, like product managers become experts, right? So people are going to come at you asking questions all the time. Your first question back to them is, did you read the FAQ? Just keep using that technique to try to get people to become more self-sufficient. They can go to that resource, and you got to keep it up to date, but go to that resource, and then hopefully they will go there first and not ask you with all these questions all the time, right? So this is a time-saving measure and a powerful communication technique. Use these two techniques. All right.
So Roger, I'll just
Yeah.
echo, I know it sounds like we're here talking about, saving time and here's more homework to do for product managers. But I have on our podcast, for example, I interview product leaders on what makes their first 90 days successful. And I recall a story with Alex Bass, who's now CPO of Typeform, where she said the first thing that she put in were these monthly email updates. It's not just a time-saving tool here. It's actually, I think a lot of companies struggle with stakeholder alignment. A lot of companies, stakeholders think product management is the black box. And so anything that you can do to up the communication at these companies, it does save time over long term, but even better, it creates much more alignment.
Right. Absolutely. And it keeps everybody informed as things are evolving. Very important. So now the answer to our poll said that most folks are doing this already, right? They have a core team, they have extended teams. So I'm not going to belabor that point too much, but I just want to point out that the core team are the folks that are deeply engaged and that you need to keep coordinated on a regular basis. And yes, this is a different meaning from the agile ceremonies. All right. You need those agile ceremonies if you're using the agile development process, right? If you're using waterfall, the core team meeting becomes even more important. In either case, you want a regular sync up, typically weekly. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how to make those meetings efficient in a moment. But that is where everybody can get issues out on the table, talk about being able to break down barriers and help each other, right? It is an important way to make sure everybody's on the same page and moving forward in the right direction. And then the extended team, there are folks who, like finance, for example, right? Or maybe corporate marketing that don't need to be at every meeting, but at certain times, their participation becomes critical. Pre-launch, that is a busy time. And we'll talk more about that in a little while. But at pre-launch, you want finance to be there. You want marketing to be there to make sure everybody's on the same page about our marketing budget, about our marketing campaigns, the plans that need to go on. We're making sure that we're getting ready for sales enablement. That's a busy time, and a lot of people need to be involved. So invite that extended meeting. You might even up the cadence of it, like I said, during pre-launch, but have these two different groups. Work with them on a coordinated and regular basis. And it sounds like I said earlier from the survey, most of you are doing this well. Hopefully a couple of these tips help you better organize that. So now let's dive into, all right, for the meetings that you run, how can you make them more efficient? I have been to so many meetings, and in fact, like the number one thing that people complain about on survey after survey is there are too many meetings in my life, right? So how do you make your meeting, the one that you coordinate, one that people actually like, actually appreciate, right? This is a high bar, folks. Make your meeting a meeting that people want to come to. You do that by making sure you know what you want to get out of that meeting from the beginning. There are different kinds of meetings. Is this meeting an informational meeting? Is it a working meeting like a brainstorm? Or is it a decision-making meeting? Make sure you understand what that meeting is about, and then you drive it towards that conclusion. That's half the game right there. A lot of people don't think about what we're trying to accomplish in each meeting, and that's why the meeting can go sideways. If you go into the meeting knowing what you want to accomplish, you're going to be more effective at driving it in the right direction. Bring data, whatever this meeting may be, whether it's about keeping on track on the project schedule and the release plan, or whether it is a brainstorm, make sure you bring the data that you need, and make sure other people are bringing the data they need to make the meeting successful. So what I like to do for a meeting where it's important to have that is send out a pre-brief, a quick little email that says, remember, on Thursday, we are getting together and we need to look over all of our personas because we need to update them. So everybody needs to have read them, right? And bring whatever new data we have from, say, recent interviews to update them. Now, you could also take the Amazon approach and have the first 10 minutes of that meeting be time to read. So know what your company culture is like. Know whether people do have time to come prepared, or if they don't, then plan that time into the meeting as well. So they take the time to get ready. And then some simple things. Make sure that you've got an agenda. I was talking about that. The pre-brief can do that, or the meeting invite should have the agenda in it. Make sure you track action items at the end of the meeting. Everybody agrees. Yep, that's what we said. With dates, by the way, right? You need action items to have a due date. And then whatever happens during the meeting, when things start to go off topic, at one of my companies, we actually used to have a little picture above our whiteboards of a rat going down a hole, right? And we actually said, nope, that's a rat hole. We're not going down that right now. I'm not kidding. We used to have that. That's when you politely and professionally say, hey, I think we need to take that offline, right? We'll take that into the action register. We'll talk about that in a separate meeting. Make sure you do that. And then end on time. Always end on time. Our practice is meetings run 55 minutes. So that in fact, you do have time for a little transition and break between meetings, right? So set up your calendar invites. You can tell Outlook, I want my meetings to always be 55 minutes long. And then it's easy. Set that up, right? Lastly, make sure your meetings are psychologically safe. If you've got a mix of extroverts and introverts in your meetings, make sure you give time for the introverts to think and politely invite folks to share their thoughts, and make sure everybody agrees, hey, we're always going to listen and respect what anybody brings to the meeting. That will help everyone open up and bring their best game to contribute to the meeting.
So Roger, we actually polled LinkedIn and we were curious what did LinkedIn users find to be the biggest time wasters and unproductive meetings. 2/3 of those we polled responded unproductive meetings were the biggest time waster. So I'm just going to reiterate what some people actually wrote. And one of them was what you had set up front, Roger, which is say no, say no to the meeting. Sometimes you don't need to be there, and then don't. Save your time, save your energy. Other practices were included time boxing discussions, not burying the lead. So starting the meeting with the meat, like what are we talking about up front to get engagement up? And nemawashi, which is a practice of the meeting before the meeting. I think those are for really critical decisions. If you have a group or maybe a product review, sometimes you want to have that meeting in advance to answer questions and make sure there are no gotchas. But the one point I will say for that one is people do act differently in a one-on-one setting versus a group setting. So even if you have the meeting before the meeting, you may still be caught off guard. Just know that.
Just be prepared. Yes. Yeah. When I used to run product review boards as the head of product management at various companies, that Menawashi technique was crucial, right? I would encourage my product manager who was going to be bringing their update, their business case, or their new request for resources, whatever it might be, to make sure all the constituents that played in building up that plan would send a delegate or be at the meeting, right? And their VPs would have been pre-briefed by them or by you or by me to make sure that we're on the same page to reduce the number of surprises. Now, like Rina said, you're never going to eliminate them, all right? But you want to reduce them. And the technique that I just described of everybody who contributed should be at least on the edges of the wall of the meeting, so that when the VP of engineering says, I didn't see that part, wait a minute, what about this? Then you can actually ask the person who contributed that part, that director or that principal engineer, to say, oh yeah, we talked about that, right? And you can turn to them, engage them in the conversation to help prevent that one question from ending the meeting early because, oh, well, we don't know the answer, so we got to go off and do our work, right? So bring the right folks to these critical decision-making meetings to help reduce the churn that can happen in those meetings. Very important. I'm glad you brought that up. It's a really, really good point. The last thing I want to say here is always have a dash of fun, all right? Especially if you're doing these meetings virtually, reserve the first 5 minutes of the agenda to just catch up personally, all right? At the beginning of this, I practiced that. I shared with you all, hey, we got a dreary day today because there's a bomb cyclone going on a couple hundred miles north of us, right? So talk about the weather, pets, what's going on in your life, all right? So that you do get that personal touch at the beginning of the meeting. It can only be 5 minutes. Right? Shout outs is a technique we use. where we ask folks to recognize each other for the great things that have been happening over the last week. So when we get together, we have shout outs so that we get a chance to celebrate those successes and the individuals that are helping achieve them. Very, very powerful technique as well, just to get everybody in the groove and feel more personal about what's going on. I hope this meeting Maven slide is another powerful technique for you to either reinvigorate your practice of meetings or build up your capabilities here.
I recommend sometimes going through a meeting apocalypse. That means just getting rid of every single meeting on your calendar and only adding back the ones that are actually necessary. It's a healthy spring cleaning practice.
Absolutely. Good, good. All right, let's talk about no surprises. All right, this is an aspect of product management that can take some time to build up your capability, but I really want you to be thoughtful about this. All right, so first of all, I don't want you to be surprised as a product manager. So I'm actually going to kind of start at the bottom of this. Build a network of folks that you listen to on a regular basis. In my first job out of college, I actually got to know a couple of our customer support reps, the actual folks who were taking, and this was back in the days of a call center, actually taking calls from customers. And I wanted to understand on a weekly or every other week basis, what were the kinds of calls that we were getting about my product so that I could understand at the ground level what people's life experiences were with their product, what were they complaining about. So build up a network of folks that you can check in with on a regular basis and hear what's going on. How is sales doing in their pitches? Are they getting feedback or are they getting objections they don't know how to handle? Talk to your customer support reps, talk to your marketing folks, product marketing, and they are out there on the front lines, always trying to help sales be more effective. They hear all the stories. Channels, another one. So build up a network of folks inside and outside your organization that gives you the ability to listen, and you build up a trust relationship with them. They know they can also send you an email or give you a call when they're hearing something, when they're seeing something out in the marketplace. All right, so build up that network of folks that you can pay attention to and get that trust relationship going, right? Then use some of the tried and true techniques like pestle and competitive analysis, and make sure you build up what we call a knowledge base. Do you understand what's going on in your market? Do you understand what the competitive landscape looks like? Are there new competitors entering? Are there competitors who are starting to suffer and that maybe you could take advantage of, right? I do get a little bit competitive when we talk about competitive analysis, but yeah, I want you to be able to know where the knockout punch will be most effective. I want you to know what new capabilities maybe a competitor brought to market that did surprise you initially, but now you're going to build up a plan to address. And with Pestle, boy, right now we are in the United States anyway, in a huge time of flux. All right, we just had a major election, and without commenting one way or the other on winners and losers, it is a time of change. So take some time to analyze what do the next 12 months look like under a new executive branch in the US government? What's going to happen in the regulatory environment? What's going to happen in terms of financial capabilities? Are interest rates going to go up or go down? Remember, your customers are spending their hard spent money on you. How much access to money are they going to have? Are they going to be, and how much can they leverage the benefits your product can provide? So do pestle analysis, do competitive analysis, and then get in a regular cadence of updating it. If you haven't already, establish that knowledge base, and then whatever the right cadence is for your market, right? For some markets like software or gaming, things are moving fast. So you may need to update this on a weekly basis. In other areas that are say highly regulated, like medical instruments, things probably move a little more slowly. But still, get into that cadence. This is one of those techniques I want to connect to an earlier one. Put on your calendar at the right cadence, update my knowledge base for 60 minutes, and maybe it's once a week, once a month, once a quarter, but add that as a repeating calendar invite to yourself where you block out the time and you just check in. And this is going to help then reduce you from being surprised so that sales doesn't come to you and say, did you hear what this competitor is doing? And you can smile and say, yeah, I'm already aware of that. Let's talk about how we can help you with the new objections that come up as a result of that competitor and whatever new capability they might be bringing to market. This is important so that you can become knowledgeable in your market and you're not surprised. Anything to add there, Rita?
Well, we do have a question from Noor, asking if there are any more analysis tools like Pestle that they could be using. And
Absolutely.
there's a wealth of
Oh,
different.
there are lots of tools. So start with pestle analysis because it kind of gets you a lay of the land. But then another technique, of course, is SWOT, right? So strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Often pestle analysis will help you with the opportunities and threats parts of your SWOT scorecard so that you can update that and make sure that you then take a look at, well, what are my organization's strengths and what are their weaknesses so that we are able to then respond to the opportunities and reduce the threats that are coming in. So yeah, I love the 1-2 punch of doing a pestle analysis, then updating that information into your SWOT, and then using the SWOT to come up with an action plan for what to do next. Another one, Porter's 5 forces. If you are particularly concerned about the competitive landscape, then use Porter's 5 forces. Another great technique to look at the competitive landscape through some different lenses, right? I could spend an hour talking about how to do a proper Porter's 5, but Google that and use SWOT, Pestle, and Porter's 5 as techniques to build up your understanding of your marketplace.
There are a lot of frameworks. I know we go into many of these frameworks in our optimal product management class. The one point I will just say is this is really, again, the reason why we're bringing this up in a how to optimize your time is this is actually the work that gets you so much better informed about your market that it'll save you time down the line.
Absolutely.
And when we did our skills benchmark report, I think year over year, Roger, every single year, competitive analysis is actually one of the weakest skill areas. And it shocks people. But it doesn't shock me because when I go into a company and we find out they're not actually doing this very regularly, whereas the top quartile companies, they update their competitive analysis on a sometimes monthly basis.
Right.
They have they get to decisions faster because they do this work.
That's right. They have that context. They don't have to just be scared and go, I don't know, right? You need to be having that knowledge at your fingertips for sure. And so, like I said, keep this fresh. All right. Put this as a recurring invite on your calendar, a recurring series, so that you do revisit it and make sure you understand what's going on. Last tip I'll share here is use Google, right? You can actually set up Google to inform you. You give it some keywords and say, hey, anytime you see competitor name and a couple of keywords, send me an update. I still have those going so that I know what's going on with some of our competition to Productside and know, hey, what are they doing? All right, good. What can we do better? Right? So definitely use Google Alerts as a way to stay on top of things in an automated fashion. All right. All right. So we just talked about how you don't want to be surprised, but I also want you to be thoughtful about how you should not surprise others. All right. One of the things that we encounter in our courses and all of our private trainings that frequently comes up is sales not happy with decisions you make about what goes into a product and what doesn't go into a product when you're prioritizing releases, right? Now, in our course, we talk about how you always want to connect those priorities to the outcomes that your product is trying to achieve, but you need to be more transparent about how those decisions were made so that even if you're never going to make everybody happy, all right? Unfortunately, that's one of the fates of being a product manager. Every time you make a decision, someone's not going to be happy with it. But if you're transparent about how those decisions were made, you show them the outcomes you're driving towards this year to improve your product, the capabilities that will lead to your customers achieving the outcomes they are looking for. When you're transparent about that and say, look, I've got an outcome tree that shows for us to be able to crack open this new market, we want to help solve our customers' 3 biggest problems in a measurable way. And that's what's going to lead to these release plans that may or may not always satisfy all of the constituents. But you can then at least be clear about how you make your decisions. And that normally makes everyone just a little bit more comfortable with what's going on. All right. So be transparent about how you go about making decisions. And then, and this is something else that I learned over the course of my career, bad news does not age well. All right. Unlike the image here of fine wine and good cheese, aging does bring great qualities out. Bad news gets really poor quickly. So you want to share that bad news quickly. Oftentimes what I would do when I would hear of, oh man, like the most classic example is your development team says they're not going to be able to finish a capability that was intended to be in this release, right? Probably everyone on this call has encountered that problem at least once or twice. So you get that news, you start working on a remediation plan, but even before you have the plan, these days, hit Slack, go to your manager and say, hey, I just found out we're not going to be able to get this key feature into the release. I'm working on it. I want you to be aware of it. I'll come back to you within 24 hours with what our plan is going to be to fix it. Don't wait until you have this grand and glorious plan all worked out. Just a quick message that lets them know, I know we have a problem. I'm aware of it. I'm working on it. And then do follow up with, here's what we're going to do to remediate the problem as best as possible.
I've never been upset with anyone who gave me bad news unless it came late.
Right.
I think in those moments, a lot of people get, I understand, I empathize with delivering bad news. You're worried about a reflection on yourself, on your performance, but that's that moment where there's a loss of trust that can happen. And it doesn't happen if you're transparent. If you're transparent and you say exactly as Roger said, this happened and I'm working on it, the trust level increases. Oh, now I can count on you when things don't go as planned, as they always do.
That's right.
But if you wait, then that trust decreases and then it's a reflection now on your performance. So that's why I try to write it in whenever we onboard somebody that's working directly with me. I always try to explain them to this concept. I'll never be upset with you if you bring something to me right away. That's not good, because then we can pivot together and we can solve it. If it's late and I can't help, now I'm upset.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So get into the practice of being thoughtful about sharing with your boss and with your stakeholders when you get bad news, and point out to them what's your plan for remediation. Or if you don't have it yet, just say, hey, I'm working on it. We're going to have a plan, right? I'm on it. That's very important. Okay. So remember, in this section, get good at knowing your marketplace so you're not surprised by what's going on, and don't surprise others. All right. So now let's kind of string this all together. All right. I want to take a real life example because product managers are super busy, right? There are a lot of things going on as a product manager. And so I want to give you a real life example. Let's talk about, you've got a product that's somewhat mature. You're already on release 3.1 that's out in the marketplace. So you've got that product out there. Customers are happy with it, or some are complaining, but that release is out there. You've got the next release in development. All right. What's the next release? It's an incremental release that's in development. And you've got a release that's coming, but it's a big change, right? You're going to go to a 4.0 release with some major new user experience elements to it. So you're in the discovery phase for that particular release. I'm hoping maybe some people can, show of hands in the chat bar. I'm hoping a lot of you, this is your life. You're dealing with this. Would love to know what you're thinking about that. Let's talk about now, how do we apply some of the techniques that we've been discussing this last 45 minutes and see how we put them into practice. So for the release that's in the marketplace, all right, make sure product marketing is on top of leading the campaign for success. They're engaging with sales. They're putting out great campaigns. They're working with digital marketing. They're working with their classical marketing, making sure the next trade show features their product. They're doing the heavy work there, right? You, as a product manager, are monitoring success metrics. But again, you bring in stakeholders like your data analysis. If you've got some data scientists, bring them in, get their help, right? And you're partnering with UX and their development team to make sure that you are continuing to build, measure, learn. Can you do some A/B testing with a particular area of the product where customers seem to be struggling? Can you just measure results long run and then look at those results and feed that information back into what's going on, right? So as you're learning out in the field, that should be feeding your thoughts for what's going to come in a future release. So team sport, lots of folks getting there. You want to bring them all to the table and make sure that they're helping you out. All right. In the release that's out, not yet out, right? If you've done your work of building up your knowledge, understanding the market and your customers' needs, then you give them the problems to solve and you let them go to work on solving them. Get out of the kitchen of the solution space. And this is a real challenge for product managers sometimes who used to be a software engineer or used to be an actuarial, used to be a data scientist. Now it's your job to present rich, deep understanding of problems and then let them go to work on solving those problems. So have your product owner, your project manager, whoever it might be, your dev team, give them that problem, let them go to work, right? Then manage the broader team. I mentioned before, pre-launch, big time, right? If you've got a project manager, ask them to help you coordinate everybody, right? So that you're all on the same page for a fantastic launch. And then, like I said earlier, you're probably going to have problems where not everything can make it, but prioritize based on outcomes. Fall back to why does this product matter to our customers? And make sure you make every choice with your customers in mind, and you're transparent about the decisions that you're making. So everybody understands why a particular feature got chucked, maybe near the end, unfortunately, but at least everybody understands. So you communicate effectively and you show how you prioritized. And then lastly, for this last release that you've got going out here, update your knowledge on a regular basis, right? Brainstorm with AI. This is a great time during the discovery phase to be using artificial intelligence for inspiration, for coming up with new ideas to then share with others. Don't rely on it. Use it as inspiration, not the source of truth, but ideas, right? And then experiment with your user experience team, your product marketing team, right? And then all along this, use all the time management techniques that I talked about earlier so that you are able to effectively keep your head above water and be thinking about the strategic aspects of what you should be doing all the way through your product lifecycle. Okay, so before I turn it back over to Rina, I'm going to issue my challenge. All right. I am hoping that with all the techniques that you heard about today, you can carve out 10% of your time. Now, in the classic 40-hour work week, can you now find ways using all these techniques to get 4 hours back every week to be doing the things that you love to do the most, which is probably understanding your customers and making sure you're effectively communicating product strategy and coordinating your team? I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to see whether you can meet that 10% challenge.
So 4 hours back. That's what all of this will give. All right.
At least. But I'm going to set that bar low, 10%.
So I saw Noor raise his or her hand when you said, does this look familiar to anyone? So I'm going to be curious, Noor, if you fulfill this challenge. Roger, if people do want to reach out to you, they can find you how?
On LinkedIn, Roger Snyder. Roger Snyder
Okay.
1, actually. Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get going, can you go back to that previous slide? Because I got a question for you here.
Oh, okay.
This sounds wonderful, right? Like I have a product marketer. I've got UX and product marketing on both sides. I got a project manager. You're saying I feel so resourced and so supported by this company. All right, tell me the truth though. Some product managers, they don't have product marketers. They're expected to be the project manager and they're expected to do everything else. So how do they get their work done?
So it is harder, no question, right? If you don't have the resources, I get it. And in fact, a lot of our students are both the product manager and the product owner, right? So in those cases, can you leverage other folks as much as possible? Can you lean into your development team, to your lead developers, to your scrum masters? Can you ask them to help out in certain areas? Corporate marketing, there's got to be a corporate marketing team. Can you lean in with those folks and ask them for help as well? It is not easy when you don't have all the resources I'm talking about, but try to leverage, again, go back to that stakeholder slide, try to leverage as many other folks as you possibly can. And you got to help motivate them to want to help you. Explain to them, hey, if you can do this for me, then I'm going to be able to go get that knowledge and information that's going to guide our product strategy more effectively. So show them what's in it for them when you're asking others to help you out, maybe outside of the bounds of what they normally do, right? Look, I was at a 7-person startup. I know there's a lot that you have to do yourself. I get it, but try as much as possible to get folks in non-traditional roles to be helpers as well. That's my best advice there, right? That at the end of the day, save time for yourself as well. Don't burn out, all right? Take time to do things you love outside of work as well.
And make sure to do the discovery work because that work sets everything else up much better. I know it takes time. I know sometimes product leaders don't, they feel the pressure to just deliver, 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 but that
Mhm.
pressure will never go away unless you do proper discovery.
Right. I agree.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Roger. So
Mhm.
as we go into just some of the finishing slides and then go into Q&A, I want to invite folks that joined today. What are your time challenge issues or challenges that you have, time management challenges that maybe we didn't go over today? So maybe we can cover some of those in the Q&A.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to announce this is actually technically a sneak peek because we're launching it technically tomorrow, but it's
Ooh, nice.
available, it's live.
Nice.
We conducted a survey of 200 certified and non-certified product management professionals, and here is the infographic that goes over the true career benefits and outcomes that came out of this survey. One of the surprising things that we found is 31% of graduates were promoted within a year after certification,
Awesome.
which is significantly higher than the non-certified group.
Mhm.
So this is a great infographic if you're interested in certification for just understanding what you can expect to get out of it. And of course, it comes with certification by our partners at AIPMM.
Mhm.
We're going to be sending you all a stakeholder alignment template. Roger mentioned how important and how also time consuming stakeholder alignment can be. And so that is why we will be sending you a template from our playbook for well, they're obviously for free, but check it out with the email that will come along with the recording for this webinar. And the next one, you'll actually join both Roger and me again. On December 11th, we're going to have a panel discussion. We're going to be bringing Joe Ghali and
Mhm.
Amira Youssef, who's a VP of product at socialpost.ai, and Joe Ghali, who's a product management transformation leader at Baxter. And we're going to be discussing what are the product management trends in 2025. We're going to be taking questions from the audience for that panel discussion. So as you register, ask or point out what
Yeah.
topic or theme you'd
Yeah.
like us to talk about.
Very important. Definitely.
And then a final announcement, our Black Friday sale starts on Monday, and there will be a special, there's 20% off all for about 2 weeks, and there's going to be a special deal as well on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Here are 3 of the upcoming courses that we have. If you want to get in, you are interested in becoming one of those 31% of people that potentially will get promoted next year, this is a
Mhm.
great time to check out our courses.
Excellent. Very good.
All right. So with that, oh, I saw a question about sending something via email. I think Kim, you can kind of take that one down. All right. So Roger, so one of the
Yes.
things that we hear a lot is with regards to stakeholders, not all stakeholders are the same. There are stakeholders that take up a lot more time than others. Some of them can be more difficult. Some of them just ask a lot of questions and others never do the pre-read. How do you deal with a challenging stakeholder?
Oh, that's a whole nother webinar, actually. But briefly, get to understand their why. All right. If they're cranky about something, try to get some one-on-one time with them outside the context of a meeting. If they're in meetings and they're not being productive, try to get some time with them one-on-one, 30 minutes, go for a walk, get out of the office, or if it's Zoom, get together one-on-one in a Zoom and really get to what's bothering them. What is it about the product decisions we're making, or what is it about the particular release? What is it that's underlying their issues? Every person doesn't want to be mean or cranky just because they want to be. It's because there's something going on, right? And try to get at that what that is. Oftentimes, once you identify whatever it is that's really bothering them, you can get down to that deep why, you can address it, right? Like, hey, great. Now I understand that you want to be able to better understand our customers. How about I bring you along on the next interview that I do? Or how about I will be more proactive in sharing with you the results of the interviews that we do? You don't know what's bothering them until you ask. So take some time to get at the why behind those folks who may be struggling, who may be being more difficult in your meetings. And if you take that time, I think you can be able to help turn them over to become a more active and positive participant.
Yeah, and I would say anybody that is challenging, one, talk to them about how they like to consume information. And
Mhm.
if they aren't coming every time to a meeting unprepared, have a separate conversation with them and point it out. Hey, I've been noticing this. I understand you're pressed for time. What can we do such that we enter these kinds of meetings together in a much better way?
Absolutely.
Audra, I did notice we are out of time. Thank
All
you
right.
everyone for joining us today. I hope you can rewatch this one later and take Roger's challenge up, get 4 hours of your day back next week.
Mhm.
And otherwise, I hope to see